Hello, 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 everybody. We are back with the first episode of the College Buzz, and I'm just so excited to come to wherever you guys are, whether you're in your dorm room, whether you're in the library, wherever you are, maybe procrastinating on a paper, but that's all right. I'm sure we've all been there, but I'm just so glad to come to wherever you are today with an incredible episode, which is surviving freshman year. Dun dun dun, cue all of the sound effects. Yes, it's going to be an amazing discussion, and I'm just so glad and honored to have a young man. We met him, me and one of the other reporters here, met him at a Salvation Army warming center, and he was just, being kind and just doing a good work. And we're going to allow him to introduce himself to you guys as we get into this conversation today.
Yeah, my name is Kitron Ferrier, and I am a senior at Baylor University in my final semester.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us a little bit about how was freshman year for you? What was that like? And all of the different experiences that you had? Because I know for me, coming from the Bahamas all the way to a new country, it was quite nervous. I was quite nervous. And, it was leaving family and friends and all of the familiar things that I knew to a big land like the
Yeah.
United States of America. So tell me a bit about your experience.
Yeah, I went to community college, and so my first week of school was not as nerve-wracking maybe as walking into a prestigious university. And I also was a football player at the time, and I remember I had a really good support system around me, and so week one didn't feel too overwhelming, especially because athletes get there earlier. And if you can do that, like get by campus as soon as possible, don't maybe show up on the first day, because that was something that, I've seen other students go through where they show up on the first day. It's so overwhelming. But for me, it wasn't, so overwhelming because I was kind of there beforehand. And it wasn't anything too crazy. It was, of course, difficult finding your classes and these kind of things, but nothing really crazy happened my first week. It was pretty calm, especially because in college there's low expectations for the first week in classes. So I remember, the teachers were just going over the syllabus, and it was pretty calm my first week, I would say.
Awesome, awesome. I wish that was my testimony. But I mean, it's kind of because, I went to a smaller college in Ohio, so I didn't really have that grand scheme of, where to go and what to do. So, I mean, although I had the nervousness because, I'm by myself, I don't
Yeah.
know hardly anyone here at the school, but, a small community college, I mean, not a community college, but a small college was definitely helpful in that nervousness a bit. And like you said, coming on campus a bit earlier, I think would definitely help. Like you said,
Yeah.
getting familiar with the environment so you don't be too lost and get to know a few people. And I like schools who hold the orientation beforehand to give students that opportunity. Did Baylor have any of that for you?
Yeah, Baylor has a welcome week, and so it's basically a week before school where you're just getting on campus, you're doing different activities, orientation, different speakers, and it's a lot, and it really does help you calm the nerves and get more used to just like, okay, this is going to be university. It's so different, but it's not actually that scary if you go through the orientation, and you shouldn't have too many nerves about it. But yeah.
Right. Orientation can be dreadful for people. They're like, it's so much, a lot of information. But like you said, it's beneficial to, utilize those opportunities to know the campus, get familiar with the people, all of your professors and all of your advisors beforehand. Because once school starts and you see all of the other sophomores and juniors walk in the class like they know what they're doing, you're going to be a little scared to ask people for help. So it's important to get familiar with that yourself. So awesome. What was one thing you wish you had known before starting college?
Oh man, I thought I knew what college was like and I was going to do at college, but I think the one thing that I wish I knew is that people change their majors, and that's normal. I read somewhere that the average college student changes their major 4 times
Wow.
in college, and so I was so caught up about choosing my major and making sure it was perfect, but I changed my major 4 times, and I didn't have any setbacks besides maybe a few classes that I didn't have to take. But those just count as electives. So I would really just say, like, you can have peace about, not knowing exactly what you're going to do. And the other thing is talk to academic advisors. That's one thing I wish I knew, because if you're taking the right classes, you're responsible for that, So you I wish I had known more how important it is to take responsibility for what classes you're in, because it's not like high school where they're going to make sure you graduate. Like, you have to make sure you graduate.
Right. No, that's so good. You have to make sure that you graduate. So even though you have advisors, you still need to print out the course requirements and look and see which courses are you going to take, when you need to take them to make sure that you graduate at the attended time that you desire to. And that's just so good what you said about the switching majors, because I know, I mean, it wasn't 4 times, but ain't nothing wrong with that. But I switched my major too when I first started out at college, and like you said, there's nothing wrong with that, because this is a new journey for you. You're seeing what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you like and what you don't like. So if you need to switch, hey, it's okay. Don't feel bad about yourself. Don't feel less than. Don't feel like it's a setback, because it can be a setup to something so great for your life. So that's awesome. Now I know some colleges, campuses are huge, like Baylor, and it can be overwhelming. So did you ever get lost trying to find your classes, or have any funny stories about navigating campus life?
Yeah, I remember when I first transferred to Baylor, I figured, hey, I'm a college student. I've been in community college for 2 years, and I briefly attended a different university. So I skipped orientation, and I showed up on the first day of class, maybe 30 minutes before my first class. And I was like, all right, where'd we go? And I'd been on campus one time before. And so I was just so lost. I was like on the bus, and I'm like, which stop do I get off? Because there's a bus that you have to get off at the right stop to even make it to your class. It's not like high school where you walk into one building, maybe there's a couple buildings. It's like, this is, it's a 15-minute walk from one side of campus to the other side of campus. And so you really do need to maybe know where your classes are beforehand, or show up before. And I actually found out that there's maps, there's resources for that kind of thing. But I was just so lost my first class that I was going to, because I figured I knew it. And so you do have to have some humility and come in and say, okay, well, I don't know exactly what's going to be happening here. Maybe I do need to prepare a little bit.
Yes. No, that's so good. We have to be prepared for all of that and ask those resources, especially during orientation time. Ask, are there any maps or any resources to help me navigate campus? Because like you said, you just don't want to be thinking that you got it when you don't, especially when you're coming to a big campus like Baylor or wherever campus you may be staying at. So I know, like I said earlier, I'm from the Bahamas, and navigating from one country to another can be difficult. So did you have any homesickness? I'm not sure how far away you live based on where you're at now.
Yeah, I originally went to community college relatively close to family and in the same state in California. Mm-hmm. And so when I did 2 years of that, I kind of got used to being away from home. Right. And then I had the opportunity to move states. And so there was less homesickness, I think, because I had that brief intermediate period where I could return home on the weekend. But it is really hard to go states over where you can't return every week and you have to wait to the break. There's definitely that longing inside of you of like, I don't want to be here. And you're stuck here day after day. And so many freshmen drop out because of that reason, because they are just like struggling and they don't have any reprieve. And so they're just stuck and they feel like they have no option besides to go back home. And in their minds, that means dropping out. And they're done with college. So that can be a big mistake. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like for me, I couldn't wait for any break. Spring break, Christmas break, summer break. I'm headed home. Exactly. But one of the things that I did to keep, in connection with my family, thank God for cell phones and for FaceTime and what's not, scheduling those things, because you don't want to lose the connections that you establish, for so many years. It's new for everyone. It's a new journey for your parents. So sometimes you may get annoyed because, parents are nagging and they want to find out, what you're doing, where you're at. But, we have to understand too, as college students, that it's a new experience for parents as well. And they want to kind of journey with us, along that experience. And of course friends too, because we can't just allow connections that we have had for so many years just to die. So being intentional about FaceTime, about messaging, and not just be like, oh, I'm independent, I'm a man now, so now I'm just doing what I want to do. But no, because one day you may have to go back home, and the connections that you don't want to burn any bridges, basically, is what I'm saying. You want to keep that connection too, and parents have to be understanding too, that it's a new journey for students as well, where they're out of their care and they're finding themselves as well. So as it is a journey for parents, it's also a journey for the students. So there needs to be that understanding and even a conversation beforehand of what is our expectations of communication, what is our expectation of keeping in touch, whether it's that FaceTiming once a week, twice a week, whatever that is, doing that beforehand so that when you're going in, there's a clear line of communication and expectation of what parents and the college student would expect from each other. So I think that's so good. What are some of the little things that may have helped you to stay connected to your family and friends back home?
Yeah, I would say messages and calls are very important, and I do regret probably not like messaging certain friends that I had in high school, because before I realized it, being away for 4 years, I haven't talked to these people in years, and it's awkward or hard to restart that conversation. So even just a quick message, just keeps you contacted enough that if something does come up that you want to talk about, and you guys can reconnect in some meaningful way. So just any type of connection is better than no connection.
Right. Definitely. That's so true. So mental health is definitely important as a college student. So what are some of the ways that you help to keep a good mental health while you're navigating college?
Yeah, so as a psych major, I mean, this is even something that we study. And that's part of the reason I find it so fascinating, is because there really are practical things that you can do that affect the neurochemicals in your brain. And so stuff like getting regular and enough sleep. You really do need 8 hours of sleep, and some people need 9 hours of sleep. And it is not worth it to skip sleep to cram for a test. You might do slightly better on that test, but in the long term, you're not going to remember that material, and it's going to affect your other courses, and it spirals out of control really fast. So I'd highly recommend prioritizing sleep rather than putting on the back burner. And that's something you'll see upperclassmen do more, is sleep more regularly. But freshmen definitely get so anxious that they feel like they have to skip sleep. Mm-hmm. And sleep is so important. So sleeping well, and then just personal hygiene matters, of working out, or little just personal hygiene, but doing things like working out, eating well, things that just take care of your body and put it in normal function, because you can't put your body through abuse and expect your mind not to be affected.
Oh, that was good right there. I hope somebody took note of that. That's definitely so important. I know for me, I like my sleep. So I don't care if I have whatever going on. I'm going to get my 8 hours of sleep, and whatever wasn't done, it'll get done soon. But definitely that is just so good to hear. So what are some of the friends that you've made a connection with in college? Because making friends in college can be awkward. So how did you find your people?
Yeah, I would say that when I first entered college, I was very antisocial, and I was nervous, and I was hesitant to make friends. And so I would say even for the maybe first 2.5 years, I didn't really have any real meaningful relationships. But here at Baylor University, I did find a crowd of people. And one thing that can help you with that is church. And that's kind of where I found a group of people, because you do end up finding like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And my best friend is actually in the same major as I am, and it goes to the same church. Nice. And so when you find extracurricular things to do, and you find things in common with people, that can get you connected into a community of like-minded people. And that's where you usually will find good friends.
Yes, that's definitely true. So finding those clubs, those different organizations that align with, your shared interests, and I think that's just so good. I know for me, going into college, it was kind of difficult because I'm new, I don't know anybody, and it takes me hard to adjust. I'm usually one who, I like to observe my environment. I like to feel out, who are these people, what are they into? But eventually, we find our people, and we have to give ourselves grace too with navigating, finding those friendships, because it may take time. It may be quick for some others, and it may be more time for others. And we just have to allow ourselves to form, because we don't just want surface level friendships. We want to build strong connections that will definitely help us throughout our entire college journey. So were there any clubs or events or activities that helped? I know you mentioned church, but were there any other activities or events maybe on campus that helped in that connection?
Yeah, originally I was playing football, and so my friends were in the same sport as me.
Nice.
But then when I came to university and I wasn't playing football, that almost felt like another freshman year, and I had to remake friends and re-explore. And so church was a big one of those. And there were other events, but I was very hesitant to go to events. And so I think that was kind of my downfall with being pretty socially
Relatable,
isolated.
though.
Is I was like, that sounds cool, but I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed.
Right.
And so it is hard to mix that in. But it is worth it if you find something that you do enjoy, especially a club, like a sport club or something like that. Is not something that I've had experience with, but I've seen other people who have found a community inside of a rugby club or inside of a book club or something where you automatically just give in a group of people and you can make friends in there.
Right. It's so easy. Like you said, you're given, a bunch of people that you can just connect with on that level. You don't have to search for them because they're right at your disposal. But I can definitely relate to that, being in the dorm or not really wanting to go out, because in my college experience too, I was just like, my dorm is pretty nice. Yeah. I don't feel like going to all of those different events, and that's something I regret too. Maybe involving myself in more of those events to get to know more people. Maybe that would have been a quicker way for me to find my people, because I didn't really work like on campus until like my last semester, and that's where I really found my people. I'm like, wow, where have you guys been all of this time? And I'm like, my last semester. I'm like, wow, I've done really horrible, but I found them, so that's all that matters. So I know with social life and academic life, it can be a bit of a struggle to navigate and to keep balance. So what are some of the things that you do to help you keep that social and academic life balance?
Yeah, I'd say just remembering your priorities. It can be easy to be carried along by your emotions or what you're feeling, but I would say sticking to your commitments and staying grounded. You'll be tempted to probably compromise on who you are to try and fit in and make friends. And I would just say it's not worth it. It's worth standing on your moral ground, not being inflexible, but not also compromising on who you are or changing who you are to make friends. And so I would say, stick to who you are.
Yes, that's so important, because a lot of people, they're taught one thing at home, and then when they go out to college and become independent and, they're like, oh, I'm a man or I'm a woman enough to do what I want to do. And they forget their moral compass. They forget, what they've been taught. So that's very important, to keep grounded morally on whatever that is that you've been taught at home, and to make sure that you're not trying to do anything to fit in just to say that you have friends. Because at the end of the day, sometimes these friends aren't going back home with us on breaks and stuff like that, and your parents are like, wait, what has gotten into you? So definitely keeping that moral compass is definitely something that we need to do as well. So time management is definitely a big challenge. I hear all that all the time, that I don't know what to do, I got so much to do, I'm always busy. But I'm like, are you really busy? So did you have any moments where you realized like, wow, I need to get my life together because maybe time management was out of whack?
Yeah, I think that the time management is so important. I think that people get so worried with being overly busy that they're afraid to make commitments. And so I'm kind of on that side of like, commitments are great, like buy in and take part, and you have more time than you realize. Like you don't need to be spending so much time on Instagram, or there's things in your life that are wasting time. And so we can make time for things that are important to us. And that's what's really fundamental, is making time for things that are important. It's not just everything. So being strategic in what you're cutting out and what you're adding in. And before you make a commitment, think long and hard about what that commitment means, and if that's something that you really want to do. Right.
That's so good. And one of the things that I kind of dislike about sometimes that us college students do, we feel as if because we're so busy, that makes us seem better than other people. Because if someone asks, hey, what are you up to? Oh, I'm just so busy, like we're running around and just like, oh, I'm here, there, and everywhere just to make ourselves feel better. But just because we're busy, are we truly being productive? And that's the difference. Being busy doesn't really matter. It doesn't really mean anything. But at the end of the day, with all of the things that we say that we have to do, what are we really getting in return? What is on the other side of that? Are we just wanting to fill up our schedule with a bunch of meetings and all of those different things to make ourselves look better to other people? Or are we really being intentional with our time on how is this going to benefit me in the long run? And I think that's just so important with time management. So with time management and with social life and everything, there is also maybe some go-to strategies when it comes to making sure that assignments are turned in on time, exams, preparation. What does that look like for you?
For me, the biggest thing that has helped me is a calendar. I use Google Calendar, but you can use a physical calendar or any application, and I just put everything in there. I actually have my Google Calendar synced with my Canvas, which is what a lot of universities will use. And so all of my assignments and all of my personal commitments show up in one calendar. And so staying organized. And the best way to do that probably is a calendar or some planner or something. Like, you need some sort of plan if you're feeling behind or you're becoming forgetful, because you can't remember all of your commitments. Because when you're choosing your own schedule and choosing, everything in your own life, it's not so straightforward that you didn't, because I didn't need a calendar in high school when everything was just, this is what you're doing.
Right.
Where it's more like I'm choosing a bunch of things. So every commitment I add to my calendar, and so that way I don't forget the weird, things that are popping up in this weird assignment that was due that I forgot about. So something like a calendar. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I love me a calendar too. I have a paper planner. I'm kind of old school, but it's all right. Some people love digital, but like you said, whatever works for you, it works for you. Because in high school we were given a calendar, but now in college we have to make one for ourselves. So we have to understand that, hey, okay, there's a certain level of greater responsibility and independence when we come into college that's totally different from high school, because parents aren't going to say, okay, or teachers aren't going to say, hey, now it's time for you to go to so-and-so's class. No, in college, you have to know where to go. You have to know how to manage that time for you to get there as well. So segue into, still talking about college life, but I know, like I said earlier, we met you at the Salvation Army doing something just so incredible. And I want you to speak to how, even as young people who may be in college, who may be, incoming freshmen, how can they make an impact in the world, even though they may be a young person?
Yeah, I think we don't realize our position in the world as university students or as just college students, and here in the United States especially. You're no longer just a kid, but you are transitioning into adulthood, and also with your position, even though it's like, well, college students are the lowest in this society, it's like at the same time we're at the forefront, we're earning a education, we're getting an education, and so in some sense we're also we need to push forward in this world. And so we can't just continue following what other people are doing. You need to think for yourself, and you are morally responsible for the things that you do. And so I think that just being conscious and always be doing things that are a little against the norm, but like think critically about what you're going to do. And that way you are setting the tone for the rest of your life, and also changing culture, because college students they play a big role in changing the culture. Yes.
I know some people say we're the generation next, but no, we're the generation now, because just in a few more years, there's going to be even this year, like you're graduating, I'm graduating from our degrees, so there's a whole nother generation that is stepping into the workforce, stepping into the real world, and definitely we're not too young to make an impact in the world like you. You did such a great deed the other day, and I just thought that was just so amazing, that whatever we can find our hands to do, that we can do it to make this world a better place. So as we wrap up this session, which has been such an incredible conversation with you, if you could give one piece of advice to a freshman starting out, maybe they may start in college tomorrow, but hopefully not, but coming into the fall, and an incoming freshman, what would that advice be?
I would say become a learner, and this mindset of you're becoming a new person, and you're also, for the first time, you're responsible for your own education, because in high school it was probably more than likely it was this is what you're doing, this is what you're learning, but in college you get to choose what classes you're taking, what major you're taking, so all of this is new. And becoming a learner, not just someone who continues to pass tests, not someone who just continues to take the required courses, but take a course that you're passionate about, find something that you love, and make that your major. And then also be a learner. Don't just learn what's required in class, but be going beyond that. The teacher might say the basic stuff, and that sparks a question inside of you. You should ask it. That's the reason that you're in person, if you're lucky enough to be, is to ask the professor questions. And so many underclassmen are scared to raise their hand because of embarrassment. But really, you're just putting yourself forward, and you're just being that person that's ambitious and wants to learn. And when you are just the person that wants to learn and soak all the information up, after years of that, you just become somebody with a lot of information. It just affects your whole life to just be constantly a learner.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it has truly been an incredible conversation, and I'm just so glad to have you here on our first episode of the College Buzz,
Yeah.
talking about surviving freshman year. I hope that whether, like I said, you're tuning in from your dorm room, the library, in your vehicle, wherever you are, I hope that there was something shared today that you were able to take in for your life and to help you as you navigate this college journey. So, until next time, I hope that you guys will continue to tune in, share wherever you're watching this from, because there's somebody out there that needs to hear this wisdom that'll be shared continuously on this episode. So, until next time, guys, see you.